We are here with Vasco Pedro. He's not only a brilliant entrepreneur, but also a leading figure in the tech industry. Vasco Pedro is the CEO and co-founder of Unbabel, leading a translation service that's bridging the gap between AI capability and human expertise, I may say. I believe Unbabel has reached 49 million in revenue and has 500,000 customers. This is really outstanding, Vasco. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Miguel. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to be here too. You have this background, so you're a scholar in the translation technology.
A PhD in natural language processing from Carnegie Mellon University.
Tell us what was the pivotal moment where you came from that background and became CEO of such an important company.
I think I've always been happiest building. I've started coding when I was 6. I've always liked building things, and I think I always thought I would go more into something more practical. When I went to the US, I went to do my master's. Didn't particularly set out to do a PhD, but then on the process of doing that just made sense. The problems I was working on were interesting, and so that ended up getting invited to stay over. But I think there was a moment, I ended up doing an internship at Google in 2007, and I think that was the moment that I realized that I wanted to create my own thing. You were in this place where it was amazing, you had unlimited resources, but yet the ability to have impact was very little because it was so big. And so I realized what I really wanted was something where I had more impact, and creating my own company made sense. After that, I did a couple of startups, good learning experiences. And then in 2011, I met my now co-founder and CTO, João. He had finished his PhD in machine translation at UPenn. We both come back to Portugal and we started working on different problems. We realized that we had a shared passion. And then 2013 is when we actually started Unbabel.
That's amazing. And how do you go about managing this huge differences between AI capability, where the industry is evolving really fast, and having human resources alongside with it? How do you manage this change?
That's actually the secret sauce of Unbabel, right? Because when we started Unbabel, we could see that AI was going to disrupt a lot of areas. In this particular area, we're very interested in. But AI by itself wasn't sufficient. And so depending on the use case, content type, language pair, what you have with Unbabel is the ability of creating translation pipelines that can be fully automatic, fully human, everything in between. And the secret for that is something that we call quality estimation, which is the ability to do real-time analysis on the output of machine translation and make a decision on whether do we think we need a human to come in and correct different things. Ultimately, what customers want is high-quality output of translation, right? And when we translate something, as a company, we're putting our brand out there. And so it's important that the quality that we get is flawless. And it's more, what does it take to achieve that? And in some cases, AI can do the job, and in other cases, it can't.
How do you cope with this AI precision that you have and the human side of it? Since AI is evolving so fast, do you see there's a point where AI is going to be as good as any human vetting system?
That's a great question. If you asked me 5 years ago, I'd be like, probably going to take a long time. Now with generative AI, I think we're moving fast to an era where a lot of the tasks that that were considered human only are going to be within reach of AI. I think humans, even in the content types where we can, like chat, for example, right? So when we translate chat, is an AI doing that because of speed? But humans are still involved in correcting after the fact. So meaning every so often we take part of the data that we think maybe we could use some human correction, and we send it through humans so that they then create more data, right? So this idea of human in the loop also as a data generation phase, I think will continue for a long time. So my metaphor is I think humans will evolve from being great at playing one instrument to being really great conductors of different AIs to achieve the same result.
Like a maestro of things. Tell us a bit, going a little bit back on your company's journey, walk us through the main challenge that you had merging these two paradigms, the human and the...
The biggest challenge early on was our naivete and lack of understanding. We started and we came from the AI side and we thought, okay, this is the hard part, AI, but we understand that part and the rest is going to be easy, right? Just throw some people on top of it. And we didn't really understand the depth of complexity that translation requires at an enterprise level. And so it took a while to kind of really understand how to find the right people, recruit them, onboard them, curate them, evaluate them, get them assigned efficiently. And so that ended up being, and it's a bit of a seesaw motion where one side improves and then the other side improves and then the other side improves, and
I know that Unbabel for sure has data privacy measures or policies.
Oh yeah.
What are you doing to protect your customers there?
So multi-level. So besides different ISOs that we have that require a lot of stringent measures, data access, etc., we have a few other things. So we have as far as I can tell, probably the most advanced anonymization filter on every text that comes in, so that we're removing PII, names, dates, etc. So that anything that gets translated is translated with anonymized data. Now, the tricky bit there is that when you're translating, things like gender are important. So if you anonymize someone's name, you have to replace it with a name that is of the same gender. Otherwise, the translation will be will come out with errors. So it's kind of semantically replacing private information was one of the challenges. So we do that. We have a lot of ways that whoever's submitting translation jobs can actually choose to say, hey, this part, I don't want it to be shown to anybody. We have, regular data cleanups. We typically have, for enterprise customers, they do a lot of security analysis on our infrastructure and process, and we usually represent a significant upgrade to their current capabilities.
Having into account the AI development, how do you see the language service evolving in 2024?
So I think what we're seeing is a rapid adoption of AI in different areas of language services and translation. And the result of that is an increase in efficiency in how things get translated. That is leading to a reduction in the revenue per word, let's say, it's less expensive to translate. But as a consequence of that, people translate more things. So reduction in revenue per word, but increasing number of words. And so the market actually, I think, will expand. The generative AI revolution, let's say, it's also creating a content explosion, right? Because it's easy to create content, so people do that more. And so when you need to translate that, even though it's easy to translate, there's more of it to translate. And so I think that's what we're going to see in 2024 is continuing rapid adoption of AI, explosion of content, and the need to have scalable systems to translate all of that.
Regarding the technical capabilities, I'm really curious about how you guys are dealing with the AI part of it. Are you using a big LLM system created by yourself? Because here at the Web Summit, we've talked with a lot of companies. They're all using, most of them, mostly SMEs, they are using ChatGPT and the likes to using their API to implement their AI systems. What are you guys using? What kind of technology are you using?
So when we started, obviously, when ChatGPT came out, we also experimented with it and we use it also in production. But now we also have our own model. So the first model that we deployed, well, we already had a model for qual estimation, but the first model for translation and other related tasks built on top of Llama. So fine-tuned on top of that, hosted and delivered by us. And now we're starting to train our own model from scratch. What we believe is where we can compete there is not so much on giant general purpose models, but it's smaller models that are faster and much more fine-tuned for specific tasks that we think are relevant for this industry.
And getting away with the language service, how do you see AI evolving over 2024?
So one of the things that we did this Web Summit was demo what we think is a really cool use of AI. So I don't know if you saw the Unbabel Halo demo on the main stage. Okay. So Halo, what it does is it combines a non-invasive neural interface with a large language model to enable silent communication. And so we're actually deploying this into ALS patients to enable them to regain communication with their family.
ALS patients? What is that?
Yeah, ALS patients in Portuguese. So Stephen Hawkins, for example, is a good example of, famous example of that. It's a disease that people get paralyzed over time, though their brains are completely working. It's terrible. Yeah. And there's about 200,000 patients with ALS in the world. It's expected to grow until 400,000 patients. And to give you a sense, Stephen Hawkins would communicate at about 2 words per minute, which is slow, and he was able to still do everything he did. With Halo, we're now at a point where we can do about 15 words per minute. And so it's making a big difference in the ability for those patients to communicate. It feels a bit like magic, like it's telepathy. You're just, by thinking, you're responding to things.
And what else? What else are you seeing beyond 2024? Where do you see it changing your industry?
So there's a big question, I think, beyond 2024. Let's think more 2026. I think 2024 and 2025 will be kind of like the progression of what we're seeing and kind of changing some of the underlying processes. But I think in 2026, what happens right now, there's a lot of things that we still interact with LLMs that require human interaction. So for example, content creation. I don't know if you use ChatGPT, but I imagine if you do, you kind of give it a prompt, you get the output, you go back, you tweak it, and there's a process to get to the result, right? As long as that happens, then translation will be a separate process from content creation. But maybe there will be a time where we really truly trust AI systems to generate content from scratch like that. And then I think in that case, then you will have generation in multiple languages from the beginning, right? So that's going to be interesting to see when that happens. I don't think we're very close to that because the way humans work, but we'll see. I think there's a lot of jobs that will benefit from AI. So my perception is that think of AI as a cognitive prosthetic, right? It's about augmenting cognition through AI capabilities. And that's what we're going to see in the next few years.
Do you envision a world where human understanding of it would be completely outpaced by the AI itself?
Could be. I mean, in a way, we're already using, one thing that LLMs are really good is at understanding and summarizing information. And I think we're seeing that already, that in some ways surpasses the capabilities of average humans, right? So the other day, I did this experiment with the ChatGPT Vision, which is kind of interesting. So I took just a photo of the outcome of a echo, abdominal echo exam. And you know how the reports of those things come with very complicated medical language, that you read and you're like, what exactly does this mean? Is this good or bad, right? So I took a photo, literally uploaded a photo to ChatGPT and said, can you explain this in simple terms, in Portuguese? And he's like, oh, this is what it means, this is what it means, this is what it means, in a really easy way to understand that my kids could understand, right? So that's not easy to do. A lot of humans can't do that, right? So the capabilities to kind of digest information, massive amounts of information, and then summarize it, I think will far outpace human capabilities, in some cases already, but will continue to do so. You're
undoubtedly a great entrepreneur. Share some insights to future or present entrepreneurs to cope with this AI phenomena, this AI industry evolving.
Yeah, I think everyone's trying to figure out what to do, right? So the challenge of building, let's call it AI first companies built on top of ChatGPT is that 2 months later, ChatGPT launches some feature and then you're done, right? So I think what we're going to see is if you already have something working, if you're Zendesk and you have a bunch of customers, then deploying AI makes all the sense, right? You have the customers, so the AI-fication, right? It's kind of like the digital transformation process, but on deploying AI into existing infrastructure, that's a no-brainer. Every single application is going to benefit from it. The challenge is if you're an entrepreneur and creating new ideas, kind of how do you future-proof your ideas, right? What are the things, if we get to a point where every idea can replicate it in 3 weeks, then what's your defensive mode? And I think that will create a lot of tension, right? But at the same time, that's because I think we're still thinking linearly on this. And so it's like, oh, there's no way of escaping this. But we, as humans, are great at finding...
Have a way of adapting.
Right? That's been our secret sauce. That's been our strength in the world, adapting to everything. And so I think we'll do this and we'll find ways of leveraging and benefiting from this technology. I guess my advice is, don't let it pass. There's this massive wave beginning now. I think you jump on this, be flexible, ready to adapt. Strong beliefs loosely held, I think is probably going to be a good measure right now.
And now good advice for an entrepreneur that wants to scale or wishes to scale a business into the size that you want, the $1 million valuation.
As soon as you can, find ways of doing things that aren't sexy. Scaling is about repetition. It's about finding product market fit, finding a thesis, proving it, and then just doing the same thing over and over. It's a bit like, when you have a band and they have a hit album, they then have to sing that album 5 million times, right? The same song in every concert that they're going to do. I'm sure at some point they're like, ugh, I'm kind of tired of this
Sometimes
song.
They end up hating the song.
Right? But that's what scaling is, right? It's saying, look, just finding something and then just doing it repeatedly better and better and better and better to the point that it's it's a great experience. Embrace the things that aren't sexy in a startup, because it's easy to get taken with we're going to do all of this noteworthy things and we have to always have this emotional roller coaster ride. Sometimes it's about finding this steady thing that you can just keep plugging away until you get to where you need to get to.
We're almost done here, Vasco, but I really want to know, how do you manage time? How do you manage people and manage your own time? How do you cope with that?
So I've evolved over time. I think when I started in Unbabel, I had this underlying sense of like, in a way, the output of my work was correlated directly with the number of hours I worked. And so it was like, I'm going to work as many hours as I can, as long as I can, as hard as I can. I think probably once we raise Series A, and you start getting a leadership team and you have people that actually are better than you are at whatever they do, then your job is really about how can you make the best decisions possible, right? And so it shifted to how do I put myself in a position to make best decisions? And that means having enough time to kind of think about things, is having enough time to take care of your body, rest. Like if you're not sleeping and you have to make a big decision, you're probably going to make the best decision, right? So it's kind of looking at this from, hey, in order to enhance the success of the company, I need to be in the best position to be able to make those decisions. So what I try to do is I try to work out or exercise 6 days a week, like 1 hour, like some more body maintenance, like what can I do today to kind of keep this. Even when I travel, I try to stay in a place that I can have a gym, I can work out, I can keep a routine. I try to eat healthy as much as possible. Sometimes, it doesn't work. You have a lot of social events, like you drink a bit, but whenever you can, don't let it do it. Like I try to reserve as much as possible mornings for deep work. So try to not have a bunch of like little meetings but actually have blocks of time that I can focus on something. And then reserve the afternoon for quick meetings for, ongoing maintenance kind of things. And then it helps having amplifiers. So people around you that can really help you extend your ability to manage. If you're a CEO, consider a chief of staff, having a great EA that can help manage your time.
What's a good trait of someone like that, of a good helper?
A good EA, will anticipate what you need. A lot of times you'll be like, oh, I need this, and it's already there. It has a support mentality. They thrive. They see this as a team effort, but that they're excited when things work. They're obsessed with things working well. They're very operational. They can think on their feet and kind of adjust. I think those are all things that are important.
Curious about your relation with sales. So how close are you to your sales department at Unbabel?
There's been different times, different cycles, right? It's like there's always something on fire as you're scaling a company, right? So sometimes it's sales and you're onboarding a new sales leader or deploying a new sales strategy. And so you need to be closer to that and kind of give it the support that you need. Then it will be product. Okay, we need to think a new product strategy. And then it will be engineering and people issues and culture issues. Like there's all of this marketing. And I think with sales, it's very important that you have direct contact with customers, that you speak with customers, spend time with customers, because otherwise you can't really validate your processes. But sales isn't my background, right? So I'm much more of a product CEO than a sales CEO, which means that I need to have an even stronger counterpart on the sales part to help me be able to look around the corner and cover my blind spots, which in sales are quite big.
Exactly. Vasco, wonderful talking with you. Thank you so much.
Miguel, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.